Only the newbies that just started accumulating yesterday are scared. Everybody else that's been around for a while knows that this game has an ending and it's in sight.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is David Smith, Senior Analyst at the Morgan Report. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be back, Elijah.
It's great to have you. And this morning we're actually seeing quite a fall in both gold and silver. Silver is down almost $1 as we speak. Your perspective on this recent decline, people are saying it's because of the, kind of hawkish talk from the Fed.
I think it's just another engineered takedown. The paper shorts have decided that if this thing breaks out much higher, it's going to be a confirmed breakout. The mining stocks are showing that it wants to go higher, gold and silver. And what we're going to be interested to see is how this is resolved, whether or not the longs run for cover or whether or not they come in and buy. I noticed that the silver stocks that I follow and the gold stocks were not down that much. So I think the market is less and less inclined to pay attention to things like this and see them as a kind of a broke wave that rolls itself on, and then we go right back to business as usual, which is confirming a bull market.
Do you think what the Fed is saying is having any impact in the gold and silver markets?
For some people it is, but for the people that are buying and holding and acquiring, I think they see it as noise, because they talk all over the board. And the metals continue to work irregularly higher. The miners are earning, some of them, as much as they've ever earned because of the disparity between what it costs them to produce it and where it's going. And I think, to me, I know it would be a shock to some people to see silver down $1 today, but I've seen this before, and it's funny, it just doesn't have much effect on me.
Yeah, I think that's the same for me. I mean, the reason that I hold precious metals is primarily for insurance, to have something outside of the system. But kind of your perspective on that. I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem like, I don't see why, a decrease of the price by $1 in silver really should have any impact.
I remember how I felt a year ago in March at $12 silver. And now I know how I feel at $27 silver, and it's a whole different feeling. It's like it's just a matter of time. The supply all over the world, as you well know, and as Andy knows, is getting tighter and tighter. And when prices go down, people buy. When prices go up, people buy. So the game is nearing an end, in my view. It's just a question of when, not if.
No, you mentioned how a lot of people are buying right now, and we've seen this since the beginning of COVID, and then there was the silver squeeze, and then silver squeeze 2.0, and just a whole lot of demand for physical silver. The U.S. Mint actually just posted on Facebook that, they're struggling to meet demand because of the global silver shortage. Those are the words they use, the global silver shortage. Your perspective on now the U.S. Mint acknowledging this?
I think that's very important because, as you know, legally they are tasked with supplying the silver that the public demands. And if they're having trouble getting it, and this isn't just some blog post, this is the Mint themselves talking. So this is one more big tea leaf that shows us that things are unwinding rapidly. And only the newbies that just started accumulating yesterday are scared. Everybody else that's been around for a while knows that this game has an ending and it's in sight.
I just find it so interesting that the Mint itself actually acknowledged a shortage in silver. I mean, where do you see this heading? Do you see the shortage getting worse?
I really do. And whether or not the edifice just cracks all of a sudden or more cracks come in and finally there's no silver at all, it's difficult to say exactly what it'll look like. But I think when it does happen, people that have been waiting around for some magic price are going to find out that the magic they're looking for is unavailable at any price.
In your perspective, why do you think that is, that there is this shortage right now of physical silver?
Well, more and more people are understanding the narrative of what this really means and the difference between physical and paper. It's out in the public. It's not something that's hidden anymore. And even the people that are trying to move the price around with their paper are not trying to hide it. So I think anyone who does any amount of research in what's going on will come to see very quickly that this is a game that is rigged, and it's one that's and it's going to fall on its own face very soon, because you can only fool Mother Nature so long, and the market. And Mr. Market is not to be fooled indefinitely.
The interesting dynamic with silver, though, is that it's both an investment and an industrial commodity, right? And there's a lot of industrial demand as well. So we're seeing this shortage in silver at the same time. Industry, needs it for green energy, and all the pretty much, everything electronic uses some sort of silver. So your perspective on that, how we're kind of seeing this investment demand and this industrial demand very strong at the same time.
The change in the last couple of weeks was some things on the boards of major oil companies such as Exxon, where 3 board members were moved off in terms of people that promised zero emissions and changing the whole face of the oil industry. This is sweeping like a tsunami. I thought it would take several years to play out where the oil industries might be challenged to up their game, but it's happening in real time in days and weeks. And the movement toward an ESG future and a carbon neutral future. Now, we can take issue with how reliable that's going to be and how attainable it's going to be. But the point is, there are forces that are moving this in a direction which are going to overwhelm the supply of copper, of silver, and other base metals, because this has not been fully thought out. In other words, instead of allowing this to happen over a couple of decades, people want it now. And so they're going to do whatever is necessary to push the industries in that direction. And some of it is going to be ill-conceived, and the fallout is going to be that the metal supply is going to absolutely dry up. You can see what's happened with copper lately. You can see what's happening with silver. And I think it's going to push this narrative in a different direction much more quickly than any of us can imagine, with the good and the bad coming out. And we'll see which one ends up on top, whether it would be more good or more bad. But either way, it's going to massively affect the fortunes of silver and its availability. So anyone that's waiting around is going to end up becoming a spectator rather than a speculator very soon, in my view.
Silver did fall to about $11 or $12 last year. Do you see the possibility of that happening again? Or because we are seeing a fall in the price of silver by about $1 today, could it continue further, or how low could silver go?
It could certainly continue further, and I don't see $12 again. Of course, anything is possible. But let me say this. If you see a sharp drop in silver of several dollars, don't blink, because by the time you open your eyes again, it'll probably be back up to where it was. This is going to be like pouring water in a test tube beaker. It's going to go down to the bottom and come up the other end more quickly than you can imagine. This is not a punch bowl. It's a very narrow V-shaped situation. So I'm watching the mining stocks. They're saying, we're not worried. I'm watching the supply of silver. We're saying, we're not worried about anything new coming on in the market or a drop in price. So this is just something that is fascinating, and we're going to look back on it and wonder how we didn't see it coming. Those who proceeded to look the other way when all the evidence is pointing in this way.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2-year chart of silver, and I noticed, March of 2020, when it did drop to that like $11, $12 time, it was very quickly back up to where it had dropped from, and then after that it rose like another $10 or so. So it's like, yeah, definitely don't blink. If silver drops, it could just go right back up to where it was before, and then also much, much higher.
Right. Trying to predict where silver is going to be on a given day or week or even month is a fool's game. It's not possible. You get it right a couple times. But when you look at the fundamentals and the technicals supporting what's going on here, and how the premiums stay high. I mean, $3 used to be a premium for the American Silver Eagles. Now it's 10 or 12. That's insane. Who would have ever believed that? And who would have ever believed that would persist not just for a couple of days, but for months. So I don't know what more information the naysayers need, that this is artificial and rigged, and it has a very short shelf life than what's going on behind the scenes. The backstory completely obviates what's going on today in the markets.
And we'll definitely include a link in the description of this video about gold and silver manipulation, all the perspectives on that, because there is a debate about, how are gold and silver manipulated? Are they manipulated? So we want to provide all the perspectives on this channel, and we'll have the link in the description of this video. Regarding that physical demand and the premiums we're seeing, some people have been, calling us and saying, we want American silver eagles, right? And there's often this desire for the American coins, right? The silver eagles and also the junk silver. And because it is so popular, there are higher premiums on those. Silver eagles are the most popular silver coin. In your perspective, do you think people should be buying just American made coins, or, are other mints just as good?
I own them myself, and they're beautiful. And as you know, there's a design change coming out this fall. But the premiums are just insane, and to pay $12 or $10 over spot is not a good business way to do it. I still think that bullion coins, 1 ounce and 5 and 10 and 20 ounce and even maybe 100 ounce silver bars are really a cost-effective way to go. So if you're trying to get something close to spot, relatively speaking, that's the way to go in my view. And as you know, there are times when the 1 ouncers carry a premium that's all out of proportion to buying a 5 ouncer on a per ounce basis. So you bob and weave a little bit. But in my view, this is the time to be bold and bright. Now, be bold doesn't mean taking out a home loan to buy more silver. Being bold means to hold on to what you know is right. Don't be selling your silver. If you have money that's allocated for more silver, buy a little bit more. Go against your emotions, because emotions, we still are primitives with computers, and our emotions have not changed in thousands of years. When you see times like this, people panic, but the people that make and keep the big money are the ones that are buying right now, in my view.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the premiums and saying trying to get the most silver for your money. That's, I think, a very good idea. I think it also has to do with, how big your investment is. If you're only going to buy 100 ounces of silver, then probably the 1 ounce rounds or coins are going to be a better bet, because then it gives you more flexibility when selling. You don't have to sell all at once. But if you're purchasing order way higher than that, then 100 ounce bars might still give you enough flexibility when selling. So I think maybe that's also something to take into consideration. But your perspective on that?
Yes, the mix is pretty important. And for most people, a 100 ounce bar, even if they have quite a bit of silver, does limit the flexibility a bit. I don't think you can go wrong with 10 and 20 ounce bars and even 5 ounce, really, because you can parcel that in and out. And also you know that you have more flexibility, rather than if you're looking at a couple of 100 ounce bars and that's all you have, or a 1,000 ounce bar, that complicates your issue. So keep it simple. And if you plan to buy more, consider that. If not, just hold on and just let the emotions slide by, and don't get caught up in it.
How do you see this pullback in the price impacting the mining sectors?
I see very little impact on the miners themselves that are raising money. There's a placement that I was watching just a few days ago. They raised $2 million more that was offered than they could allow. They ended up having to make it at $1 million more than what they were going to do. This is just one example. The money that is what you call the smart money, or the money, let's call it the money that's well researched. And it's not just big players, but it's all different size of players. They know that this silver situation is almost unique in modern history, and they're not going to be shaken out by what's going on by the Fed speak and by paper silver being taken down on the COMEX, where they don't even have the metal to back it, and the questionable issue with the Perth Mint. The evidence is so overwhelming that all you have to do is be right and sit tight, and you will be vindicated.
Now, your perspective then on the leverage that the mining stocks will probably give if we do see a rally, continued rally in the metals.
Absolutely. Morgan has long stated that his subscribers, he recommends that they buy the physical first, get what you need and want in that area, accumulate as you can. If you have extra risk capital, then put some of it in well-researched mining stocks. And that's our forte. And what's going to happen, and this what as always happens in the bull run, is that the miners, because they represent more risk, that's part of the rationale, but because they also are more tied to the price of silver, will rise on a higher percentage basis. They're more volatile than the physical itself. The physical itself is going to go up most likely into 3 digits. And so that would be a rise from here of several 100% if it just hit 100. And it could go a multiple of that. So whereas the physical may rise 3, 5, maybe even 10x, a mining stock, a good one, could rise 5, 10, 15, 20, 50x, a very special type of property. So research and buy a couple of junior producers, maybe research an explorer that has a property that looks really good, put small money into that. If you're going to put big money into mining stocks, put that into the seniors and into the royalties. But that kind of a mix can give you a lot of flexibility and I think offer really substantial returns in an environment where in Germany, as an example, 200 banks are charging their customers to store money with them. They're taking money away if you have a deposit with them, negative interest rates. That's crazy. Why would you do that when you can hold silver in your hand and see what's going on and what's going to happen with it? A small amount of silver.
Now, we talked about the silver shortage earlier in this interview, and I guess taking probably a longer term view, if we look at what's in the ground itself, are there a lot of rich deposits now, or are those being depleted?
There are very few primary silver producers on the planet. The grades are dropping. They have to dig up more ore to get the same amount of graded silver. There are large deposits out there, but some of them are affected by political concerns, by resource nationalism that's going on, perhaps in Peru with the election that's going on, by added taxes, by ESG, which has, and some of it's beneficial, where you have more stringent rules on the footprint that you're allowed to establish in a mining project. So the ones that are established are being affected by this, and the ones that have not even been permitted yet are really affected because they have to go through a warren of regulations to get to the point where they can produce that first ounce of silver. And when you hold that ounce in your hand and you see it's 999 fine investment grade silver and it's shiny, ask yourself what it has to go through to get in your hand. And when you do the research, you'll be shocked at how complex it is and how problematical it's becoming.
So then this, in your view, probably will have an impact on the price because it's getting harder and harder to mine silver, correct?
It's going to have a huge impact. And just what's happened in the recent months with what we mentioned earlier about the change of net carbon, zero emissions, that type of thing. And this isn't just in automobiles, and it just isn't in oil companies. It's in the silver producers themselves. They are being told by shareholders, we want you to reduce that footprint. We want you to produce your silver in a more environmentally friendly way. Now, that's good, and we want that for the environment and for the earth. But if you look at the realistic implications, it's going to mean silver is going to be more difficult to obtain in new deposits. It's going to cost more to produce it. It's going to become more complex. And that's going to mean much, much higher silver prices. And as demand shockwaves that supply, prices are going to go higher and higher. There's just no way around it.
All right. Well, David Smith, before we let you go, if our viewers are interested in hearing more of these interviews, they can go to libertyandfinance.com. In the left-hand corner, subscribe to our free newsletter. If people would like to find you, where can they find you? And any last thoughts before we let you go?
They certainly can find me there on the Morgan Report. I contribute each month. And lately, I've been very pleased. I want to try to give back a little bit by allowing people, if they want to write me directly and ask me questions. And I can't give investment advice, but I can offer suggestions and point them in directions. And if they would like to write me at davids@lode.one, they can feel free to do so. That's DAVIDS@LODE.ONE.
David, once again, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
It's a pleasure being here. Take care, Elijah.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. 31 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded for physical delivery, vault storage, or precious metals IRAs, excellent prices, privacy, and confidentiality. Pay by check, money order, ACH, bank wire, or Bitcoin. Satisfaction guaranteed. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.